Tonight on Unreal Estate,
Oh, the dining room.
the mind-blowing restorations of some of Australia's most extraordinary mansions.
This is so opulent.
Sydney's answer to Downton Abbey.
Sit up, you're slouching. A woman mustn't slouch.
Renovation disasters on a grand scale.
The whole total roof collapsed.
Restoring a 1960s Aussie masterpiece.
I bought a piece of art, but it's one step better because you can actually live in it.
And the Aussie farmers who built an astounding replica of a prehistoric monument.
Welcome to Esperance Stonehenge.
If you want to know where the super rich live in Sydney, it's got to be Darling Point. The wealthy shell out millions for stunning views of Sydney Harbour. But amongst all the luxury apartments and heritage-listed mansions, there's a Victorian castle that trumps them all. And we have exclusive access.
One of Australia's oldest, grandest mansions.
Shane and Penny Moran live here just with their 4 kids.
And some servants, I imagine.
Downton Abbey.
Sound of Music.
Shane has just spent the last 6 years and a very small fortune trying to rebuild this place to its former glory.
Shane and Penny are lawyers who run a successful aged care business. They funded the entire reno themselves, making it possibly the most expensive private restoration in Sydney.
Oh, well, hello, Moran.
Hi.
Hello.
How
Welcome.
are you?
Thank you. Hi,
Thank
Shane.
you.
How are you?
Hello,
Oh,
Kate.
great.
Shane.
Thank you for having us.
Hello, I'm Penny.
Hello. And these are
Hi, Penny.
the children. Well, we have an indecent desire to see as much of the house as we can. How big is the house?
How many rooms are here?
Oh, it's hard to say. 56, 60.
56 to 60. You don't even know.
There are lots of small rooms.
Right.
What do you do with them?
They're good for hide and
That's
seek.
good for hide and seek. Right.
Let's
Okay.
get cracking.
That's excellent.
So we're going to split up. I believe, Shane, that I'm with you.
Sounds great.
Where do you guys like to hang out?
Come upstairs and we'll show you.
Sure.
And Kate, let me show you the dining room to
Oh,
start
I
with.
can't wait.
This side.
This Victorian mansion sits on 1.4 hectares of prime Sydney real estate. But it didn't always look like this. When the Morans bought it in 1997, it was a real mess and in serious need of some love and attention and money. Roofs had collapsed, floorboards were rotten, all the original paintwork was stripped away or covered up. The Morans were just the right family to take on the mammoth task of restoring the derelict house. The formal rooms at the front and the servants' quarters at the back were all meticulously restored. Lucky for Swifts, the Morans had the dedication and the funds to bring this amazing mansion back to life. Now, it's like no other house in Sydney.
Oh, the dining room.
There's a lot of history and memories in this room.
This is so opulent. It wasn't like that when you moved in, was it?
It was, Kate, virtually derelict, so unfortunately it'd been left to rack and ruin. It was built in the 1870s by a brewer, Sir Robert Lucas Tooth,
Right.
who sold it to another brewer, Edmund Resch. After that, his son, Edmund Jr., left it to the Catholic Church. And our family, 20 years ago, were lucky enough to pick it up and
Right.
embarked on the restoration.
How un-Australian that beer barons would have had all the money. Why would that be, do you think? You know what? I want to recreate a scene from one of those movies where there's always a really rich couple, but they're estranged, and I sit at the head of the table.
Your husband sits up the other
Yes,
end and passes
exactly.
the salt and
we
pepper.
make some strange chit-chat, and I'm like, when do the servants come in and where do they come from?
The servants would appear magically through
Right.
this tiny door here.
Right. And if I want to call a servant, what do I do?
You come across here, Kate, push that little porcelain button,
And then I just sort of...
and magically they'll appear. Within seconds, you'd hope.
I think within seconds. But you don't have servants here.
We don't. We have some help with the garden.
You
we
must.
don't. I wish we...
Who polishes the table?
It's not a museum, it's a living, breathing home.
The first thing you notice about the Morans is they're just like an ordinary family, but living in an extraordinary house. They are a bit like the Von Trapp family.
Do you have dinner in here?
On special occasions we do.
And how far is it from the kitchen?
2 or 3 minutes. It's a few
So
minutes
you've
away.
never sat in this room and eaten a hot meal. You're just like, oh, it's always sort of tepid. Where do you get furnishings for a house like this?
Our family's collected things over the years. A lot of them are period pieces that have been in my family for many years. So it's exciting that they've got their own stories as well.
What's the story with the table?
The table and chairs came
Yes.
from the former Lord Mayor of Melbourne, who collected them and never actually got to use them.
Oh, really?
So they're in storage for the best part of 100 years.
If there was going to be a fire in this house, God forbid, what would you grab on your way out the door?
It's a tough question. Probably a painting such as this, which shows the convicts coming out to Australia from England. That relates back to my family history. We
were
were
you
convicts.
convicts? What sort of convicts were you?
Robert Cooper was sent out for smuggling brandy and peacock feathers from France during the Napoleonic Wars.
I've never heard that. You know, it's always stole a loaf of bread, stole a sheep. I've never heard cognac and feathers. Who says crime doesn't pay?
Penny Moran's favourite room in the house is the study at the top of this grand staircase.
What is
I
that?
know, it's confusing, isn't it?
They've painted a handrail on there.
Yeah, no, it's all hand-painted.
The Morans hired a team of restoration artists to paint on a handrail, making it easy for idiots like me to fall for this optical illusion.
A lot of people do that.
Really?
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
Close, yeah.
Oh, wow, how's the stained glass window there? It's beautiful. What is that?
It's the signing of Magna Carta is the top one. It's an original lead light from the house.
It's like a church, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So this is the upstairs study, where we all can come to watch television or do homework.
You've got all this beautiful, ornate stuff.
It's true, it's a
surrounding
room
you.
packed full of lots of stuff.
The study's like something out of a 19th century curiosity shop. It has everything from marble busts to boxed insects. And I've got to say, they're a little creepy. It feels like the TV shouldn't even be in here.
I know, well, it's always a hard choice whether to put a television in, but it's just something you use so often.
Plays at odds against everything else in the room. You've got this gramophone
Yeah.
over there. And
The gramophone still works,
It does?
which is great. Yep.
Yeah.
Shane's got a collection of very old records.
gets on there, plays some Beethoven, a bit of like wicka wicka wicka. But what do these kids really do for entertainment? Surely there's a Game Boy or a computer lurking here amongst the priceless antiques and sumptuous furnishings. So this is the common hangout place for all you guys, and if you've got friends over, you have like slumber parties and stuff like that?
It's a bit of a family movie room as well. And play games and...
You guys into Monopoly? You like that one?
Yeah, love Monopoly, but it's actually great.
That's good. So, mate, you're the only boy in this family. How do you feel having three girls? You got your own wing to escape to, or...?
I've got a separate room, so if I need to get away from them, it's not that bad.
This is great. You got your own little study there to do homework in. What year are you in?
10.
It's a nice study space. Look at your view. Wow. It's like a little cubby, isn't it?
Yeah.
My apartment isn't even this big. Tell me a little bit about this bed.
My dad actually used it when he was my age.
That was his bed?
Yeah, it was his bed. It's actually got his initials on it, SM.
Do you sleep with the curtains drawn or open?
Drawn most of the time, actually.
Drawn,
yeah.
just to keep the ghosts out?
Oh, yeah.
Have you had any ghost experiences?
No, I'd like to say not, but, you know, few weird sounds.
Really?
Doors opening and...
On their own?
On their own.
It's not a drafty house. It's not just because you've got a window open or something and it's just shut the door.
Who knows, but, yeah.
I would totally have this drawn. You stick your toe out, you're gone. But what's a Victorian mansion without at least one ghost? I wonder if anyone else in the family has seen any supernatural goings-on. I'll be back to explore some of the amazing formal rooms downstairs and get to the bottom of this ghost business.
Next, an eye-popping retro restoration.
We would spend every weekend for 5 years looking for this furniture.
The Gothic manor haunted by its dark past.
The bodies were never dug up.
And Kate takes on the king of this castle.
I will fleece you for everything you have, which is quite a lot.
K's west of Melbourne, on 16 hectares of bushland, is a 1960s Aussie classic designed by architect Robin Boyd. Owner Peter Matrakis has been passionate in his quest to restore it.
The architect Robin Boyd was more an artist than an architect. Boyd was known for building houses which had internal courtyards. It had to be perfectly square. So it's basically a square sitting inside a square. Robin had sourced the quarry just outside Bacchus Marsh, and he selected all stonework individually and instructed them where to lay every stone. There's not one piece of stone that's the same because it's all hand chiselled. The restoration has been purely to restore what's been broken. The showers just didn't work anymore, so we sourced the original mosaic tiles and restored the showers to exactly what they looked like initially. There was no electricity, so I had to connect electricity. There was no water. Hence the house having these large cylinders. 6 of those are water tanks. We had to disconnect the tanks and rely upon mains water because you'd open the tap and there'd be a trickle of water. The ceilings are basically hay and stuff. It's thatched. It sagged from time to time, so you got to push it back in. Experts have told me to pull it out because it's so difficult. I didn't want to do that. It's very hard to identify quality mid-century Australian furniture because most people hang on to it. We would spend every weekend for 5 years looking for this furniture. The architect, Robin Boyd, wanted to bring up out of the ground something that looked as if it belonged here forever. That's exactly why I bought this house. I bought a piece of art, but it's one step better because you can actually live in it.
Was brought back to life by the Morans, and it was one of Australia's largest and most expensive restorations pulled off by a private family. Their aim to make everything as authentic as possible.
It's a proper office, isn't it?
It's a real library.
Do you read these books?
Yeah, a lot of them are reference books, but there's novels too and history books.
Where did your snaky lamps come from?
These are actually French, and they're quite good because...
Oh, you can angle them? Oh, no, Shane. I see that you've made a major boo-boo in the historical accuracy of the room.
What's that, Kate?
Mate, no computers in the 1800s.
We use the rooms. It's not like it's a museum.
No, it's properly your office.
So it's a modest and modern life for the Morans, who just so happen to live in a restored Victorian castle. I didn't say they were average.
How great is this house, hey?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what have you seen?
I saw the study where the kids hang out.
Well, I've seen the study where Shane hangs out.
When this house was built, traditionally you had a masculine and a feminine side of the house, divided down the middle.
Oh, really? So you kept it along those lines?
We have. It's restored like that.
Well, given that Cam's here and I'm here, well, it's obviously I need to go to the masculine side of the house.
Of course.
I need to get in touch with my feminine
You
side.
really do.
Okay.
You really do.
This is the drawing room where the females withdrew to, hence drawing.
Okay. So the ladies would withdraw here. It's like a high tea room, isn't it?
It is.
Do you do high tea in here?
No, it's not the most comfortable room.
Oh.
The chairs are very formal. You'll see, they're sort of very, you feel like,
Yes.
I think it's to make everyone...
Sit upright.
Sit
up, you're slouching.
Yes.
A woman mustn't slouch. Who's the collector?
Shane's the big collector. He's been collecting antiques for as long as I've known him, in a long time.
Has he purposefully kitted this out to make it feel like what a lady's room would be like?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He's
given it
researched
lots
that.
of
This is a
thought.
lady's table and not a man's table. And you've just been swept up into this.
I just love it. I just look at it. It's fantastic.
The attention to detail here blows you away. No wonder Shane and his restoration team received an Australian Institute of Architects award.
Yes, indeedy.
So this is still the gentleman's side of the house.
It has that vibe.
Maybe grab a drink after dinner drink.
Oh! I noticed they didn't have shot glasses in the olden days. Do we cheers to something?
Let's cheers to the history and the past.
To the past.
So I think the next...
You know I'm a seasoned Scotch drinker.
How about I challenge you to a game, Kate?
Certainly. And I will fleece you for everything you have, which is quite a lot. Yeah. No. No. That's... I love you. You've got the best manners in the world, and even you just could only go, no.
Well, ladies get a second opportunity.
Oh,
so,
do we?
Excellent
there
shot.
There you go. Oh, no, mate, you've potted the black. It's all over.
Well,
Isn't it? So, Shane, this room is exactly as it was in the 1800s.
In the 1870s, Kate, this would not have changed.
But you had to bring it back to that. How long did it take?
It took about a year to work out what was hidden underneath the layers of modern paint, and then about 3 years to restore it, and then, of course, to find furniture.
And not just any old furniture either. Shane scoured Australia to find these two original blackwood and ivory scoreboards made in the 1870s.
What was the hardest part of the restoration?
Probably replacing much of the worn-out sandstone that the house is essentially built from. Many of the roofs and ceilings had fallen through, and paintwork, of course, on the ceilings, in particular the ballroom, which is the largest room in the house.
Because everything is so old and the house is old, do you believe in ghosts?
I don't believe in ghosts.
This would be a great house for Halloween, wouldn't it? Is that what I think that is, that lady?
That lady's actually Rita, who was one of Norman Lindsay's muses.
Wow, she's beautiful.
It's typical of probably the sort of painting that was in the gentleman's
oh, of course, that's why it's
room.
in here. Oh, so that was raunchy. That was a bit of raunch.
It would have been, yeah.
That is very raunchy, by the way. Apparently Norman Lindsay was really into that.
Apparently.
Bye, Rita. Put some clothes on.
I'll be back later to find out how Shane discovered a mythical beast in the magnificent ballroom.
Coming up, the Aussie farmers who built their very own Stonehenge.
It was almost like a birth of a baby, wasn't it, when the first stone went up?
The ballroom.
It is the ballroom.
The battle to save Swifts.
The developer tried to effectively demolish the house.
And a Victorian restoration turns into an obsession.
I'll dress up, top hat and tail, and go for a garden walk.
It's hard to believe that Swifts, the grand Victorian mansion in Sydney's Darling Point, is a working family home and not a museum or castle for tourists. But it really does work for them. I'm on the ladies' side of the house, and Penny's about to show me the most surprising room of all.
And this is the Moroccan smoking room.
Ah, it's like a little recovery room in a bar, isn't it?
Yeah. Would you like a cup of tea?
I would. Yes, why not? Do we cheers? Is that what you do? I don't know, I need to put my finger up.
This is the room that the ladies retired to after dinner. And I'm told in the 1800s smoked a bit of opium.
Did they really? Okay, as you do.
Yes.
You've got the pipe. That's for tobacco, isn't it?
I think so.
There's two. When in Morocco, shall we? No.
The restoration team did an extraordinary job in this room, scraping away black paint to expose beautiful hand-painted walls. The furnishings were sourced by restoration experts, and some of the vases are over 100 years old.
Was the theme of it Moroccan back then as well? Or
Yes. So again, this again looks like wallpaper, but it's all hand-painted. It's a very dark room at night, doesn't have any electric lights, so lots of candles.
Do you get back here and just hang out?
Only after dinner parties when we've had too much to drink. And you can solve the problems of the world in here. You'd be surprised.
I can imagine. It does. It feels like one of those places you come up.
It's really good when you've had a good night and everyone's happy and it's just because at night it's very dark and you can have
all the candles,
all the spooky stories, and we all talk about next time let's get a fortune teller to come and sit in the room.
What's the scariest thing you've sort of experienced in the house in terms of ghosts?
I've seen some. I've heard lots of things. It's a very creaky house.
It would be. It moves. It's old.
And everything.
It's alive.
And you do late at night go.
I've noticed in the house there's a lot of stuff that looks quite expensive. I mean, how do you raise kids in a house like this?
I know what you mean, but you can't be too precious, I don't think, about a house. You've got to live in it. It's a family house. There's nothing in here that's priceless.
It feels like it.
I know,
it really does.
The only time I get worried is when Matt has his football in the ballroom and you kind of go as his ball's flinging around, but...
Sorry, football in the ballroom. I got to see that. All right. Yeah, the ballroom.
The ballroom.
It is the ballroom. That is huge.
The ballroom is built to impress with minimal furnishings. The walls, ceilings and cornices are gilded in 24-carat gold, while hand-painted portraits of famous composers line the length of the room. There's even an organ loft.
Who had the organ up here?
I think there would have been one there when the Catholic Church owned the house.
Oh,
and so
right.
this was a chapel.
So before the nuns lived here,
Yep.
I mean, this was built for something.
There was an organ there
Right.
in the original house, but it got taken out at some stage, but Shane's sourced an organ to go back in there.
Imagine that, like you're just going, well, we're designing a house and this is where the organ's going to go.
Yeah, it's all amazing. I think it's the history.
It is, it's bad. All right, I'm going to get involved in this. What's this game called? Keep the ball away from Barney? Peter.
Well, we have found all the children and the biggest child of them all.
How good is this?
It's brilliant. I didn't realise it was called the ballroom because literally you play with a ball in here.
Well, back in the 1870s, there were actual balls here, and in fact, when it was designed, the brief to the architect was to create a ballroom that was larger than the one at Government House. And this
he was so competitive, wasn't he?
so competitive.
Oh.
And it's a foot longer.
It's 1 foot longer. That'll count.
Really?
It always comes down to size, doesn't it?
I'm ignoring that about size. When the Catholic Church inherited Swifts in 1963, the grand old home was stripped bare.
In the 60s, 70s, they whitewashed many of the walls. Yeah. And so our restoration team had to uncover what was beneath there.
It took teams of up to 40 heritage artists more than 3 years to painstakingly scrape back the whitewash and faithfully reproduce the incredible frescoes and decorative walls. The ornate ceilings were particularly challenging, but it was in the wall in the hallway where they made the most amazing discovery.
We were here when there was a scream of delight almost, and the ladies working on the restoration of the wall just over there had discovered some griffins underneath the paint.
What's a griffin, like a creature?
It's like a winged lion.
It was very unusual in a home of the 1870s.
So what happened after the church had used this place?
It was sold to a developer, and the developer tried to effectively demolish the house.
Kidding me.
And it had fallen into a state of total disrepair and ruin until our family came along and took on the challenge.
So I've seen children playing ball in here, but have you ever had a real ball in here?
Not a real ball. Maybe that's something that you can help us with.
Should we have a go?
Hang on, if you insist.
Who's leading is what I want to know.
Well, you've just been in the ladies' room. I'm not allowed to look at you.
Okay, you're not allowed to
No. What do you think, Shane?
Excellent.
This is how you do it?
Exactly how you do it.
Okay.
I'll be back later to check out the renovated kitchen in the servants' quarters And I am going to find out if there really are ghosts in Sydney's most celebrated mansion.
Coming up, could this be monumental madness?
Never in my wildest dreams that I'd ever think that I'd be building Stonehenge.
The impeccable country homestead with murderous tales to tell.
I was awoken by this heavy breathing noise, and I clearly see a girl standing right alongside my bed.
And
Girls!
the most amazing backyard you'll ever see. This is my dream yard. In the quiet seaside town of Esperance in Western Australia, you wouldn't expect to find one of the wonders of the world. But farmers Kim and Jill Beale have created just that. It might be a replica, but what a wonder.
Cattle and horses is what brought me to Esperance. We run a couple of hundred breeders on it with 100 other animals. But I do like construction, but never in my wildest dreams that I'd ever think that I'd be building Stonehenge.
The Beale's version of Stonehenge was actually commissioned by a local millionaire and carved out of a quarry opposite their farm. But when the project couldn't be completed, it gave Kim and Jill the chance to jump in and finish the $5 million prehistoric garden feature themselves. Surely a garden gnome would have been cheaper.
So here we have it.
Stonehenge in the backyard.
Don't call it backyard. It's in the paddock. I hate it when you say backyard.
Come on down and
Take a
we'll
look.
show you what Stonehenge is all about.
You'll find it gets bigger and bigger as you go down too.
Welcome to Esperance Stonehenge. This is a full-size replica to the original Stonehenge.
2,500 tonnes of granite, 137 stones, and a lot of hard work for you, Kim.
Yep.
I remember the first day when we put that first stone up there, watching it go up, and we were really hoping that it didn't crack, it didn't fall over, it didn't do anything, and sort of celebrating. It was almost like a birth of a baby, wasn't it, when the first stone went up? Sort of forget about the building side of things.
No.
I mean, you know, you haven't?
No, I haven't forgotten a thing about the building part of it.
When you've mowed the lawn in here, quite often we sit on the altar and you have a beer and we just enjoy.
The only thing we haven't done is hit a golf ball in here, and I don't think I'd stay in here if we did. A lot of people think this was a very big risk and all that sort of thing, but if they knew what we did with farming and how we got going and all that sort of thing, there was no risk in this at all. We do have a lot of people come to Esperance now just to see Stonehenge.
Swifts is surrounded by 1.5 hectares of private parkland, a rare luxury in one of Sydney's most densely populated suburbs. Some of these Moreton Bay fig trees are over 150 years old and still going strong. The gardens, like the majestic home, have been restored, including the original veggie patch and chicken coop that provide fresh produce and eggs for the family table. The Moran kids have taken to this Victorian tradition like you wouldn't believe.
Girls!
Oh, how many have you got?
11. That's Dorothy. She's a bantam, so she never grows.
She's a little chicken. And who's this messy thing?
That's Agatha. She's a frizzled chicken.
Frizzle, that's not a name. You made that up?
No.
Frizzle chicken is a name.
real.
That's hilarious. Do you all do this? You all get in there and farm?
We have our own patches.
We've got pumpkin. Who's doing the pumpkin?
Oh, I am.
You are?
Me.
All right, after you. Just cuddling a chicken. Can I cuddle a chicken?
Yeah.
What's this one? Who's this one?
Clara.
Clara. Hi, Clara. Hey, darling.
So you hold her wings so
You
she
do,
doesn't
so they don't fly away? All right. OK, Clara, please don't poop on me.
This is my patch.
That's your patch? What have you got?
I've got lettuce, beetroot, kale,
Kale.
and cabbage.
You little hipster. You got herbs.
These are herbs and that's
Oh,
like
you've got
fruit.
everything. This is my dream yard. Alrighty,
So
bit of a
this
chicken
is the
coop.
chicken coop.
You've got a chicken swing. Go. No, not good. All right. See you, Clara. How often do you check these? Do you get eggs every day? Every day you get eggs? Holy moly! How many have you got?
15.
15 eggs from
There
11
could be
chickens.
some on the other side.
That's some serious turnover.
While the Moran family enjoys spending time together in the formal areas of the house, they feel most at home in the old servants' quarters. Shane made sure this part of the restoration was all about practicality and comfort. No stuffy Victorian chairs here. It really is a cosy little family hub.
Oh, the kitchen. I would not have imagined that this was what the kitchen looked like. I don't think it was like this in the 1800s, was
Bones
it?
are original.
And in fact, it was far from it, with all the brickwork, render and tiles in need of a lot of work.
So the heritage architect had it looking much different when he first did it. It was very stainless steel, very stark, but because I cook a lot...
Yeah, we've brought it a little bit up to date.
Sure.
Would you like a cup of tea?
I love a cup of tea. So, Penny, what is the best thing about living in the house?
It's a great entertaining house. You can have people over and they can come over with kids and the kids go off and play murder in the dark and everyone has fun.
Sleepovers, we can have as many kids sleeping over.
Well, you can never argue lack of space, can you?
No.
And I would imagine just the normal upkeep of this house is phenomenally time-consuming.
Yeah, it is.
The challenges are, sometimes they're a bit mad, but we think, well, this is crazy, what are we doing? But the benefits so outweigh any possible, downside.
Was there a critical defining moment where you clutched at Penny weeping and went, madness is afoot, I can't do this? What nearly broke you?
Well,
What about when the roof fell in the hall in the stairway?
That was very early days of the restoration. The whole total roof collapsed.
What do you imagine for this house?
What do you think I'd love another family to come in, even for one of our kids.
Yeah,
but there's a fantastic photo, Lucas took the first family.
The original family.
There's this great photo of them all out the front of the house. They had 3 boys and 3 girls, had a big family. And I thought, that's great, because we've got another family here. And hopefully there'll just be families living here.
You could fit in quite a few families here. So if you're ever in this house on your own at night, do you sleep well?
When Shane's away, it's not scary. That's not the right word. It's kind of...
I asked Shane if he believed in ghosts.
And what did he say?
What do you think he said? What do you think he said? Don't. No.
I'm not saying anything.
What do you think he said?
I think he said there might be a ghost in here. Did you say that?
He tried to pretend there was no ghost.
I think there is one.
Yes, I'm sure there's a ghost.
I think it's one. I think it's one.
If there's no ghost, ask for your money back, mate. Because if you are buying a house from the 1800s and there's no ghost, you've been gypped.
I'll be back to see if the Morans have really got their money's worth when I check out what's lurking in the basement. Coming up, the incredible Gothic restoration with all the accessories.
Part of the Victorian homestead is the Mark V Jaguar.
Coming, ready or not.
And the ultimate game of hide and seek.
There's 56 rooms in this house. I do not have a chance.
In Bombala on the south coast of New South Wales is a gentleman called Steve Rickett, who's also passionate about restoring grand old homes.
When I first saw Burnham, it was love at first sight. It was imposing, it was very majestic. It still needed some renovations done to it, but the workmanship in it was just fantastic. Because I'm very fond of the Victorian period, I eventually bought the place and resided here since 2002. Burnham is a late Victorian building. It's classed as Gothic Victorian. It consists of 32 rooms. It comprises of 10 bedrooms. That's including servants' rooms. It's period furnished. We've got a lot of the original furniture back in the homestead. So the home is still a working Victorian homestead. I try and adhere to some of the Victorian formality as well. I like to live it sometimes. This includes the high teas, formal Victorian dinner nights. At the end of the day, I'll dress up, top hat and tails, and go for a garden walk. Part of the Victorian homestead is the Mark V Jaguar. It is nice to get that out and take it for a run up the driveway or through the garden. During the research that I've done once I bought the house, I did find out there was a murder at the property around about 1902. One of the young servants was pushed into the well out the back of the house near the kitchen. The well was filled in the next day, so as a result, the body was never dug up, and we believe it's still in the well. Since I've lived here, there have been a lot of things happen in the homestead that I cannot dismiss. Footsteps on floorboards, but the house has been carpeted for 20 years. Wardrobes rocking to and fro. I always thought there was an explanation for this sort of thing. But about 2 o'clock one morning, I was awoken by this heavy breathing noise, and I clearly see a girl standing right alongside my bed. I'm very fortunate to be living here at Burnham. I never thought I would live in something like this. I believe I am the custodian of it. I am to preserve it for future generations, and I hope it's here in another 100 or 200 years.
Considering the Moran family aren't even 100% sure on how many rooms are in their amazing Victorian home, it really is the perfect place to play hide and seek.
Hide and seek.
You're it.
I'm it. 1, 2, 3.
Right, I've got to find somewhere to hide. I think they live in the servants' quarters. How down to earth is that?
George is grabbing the butler's cupboard, where the Victorians used to lock up the silver.
Dinner bell, table etiquette.
This place is just like Downton Abbey, with doors and passages going from the servants' quarters to the formal part of the house. Matt's ducked into the library on the masculine side, while Lauren finds a perfectly sized tapestry box on the feminine side. She obviously knows all the good spots. Sophie's in the vestibule at the front of the house. Obviously, these guys are seasoned players.
327, 328. The house is too big. Coming, ready or not?
OK. What's this? I'm going to go down here. This is the best one. We have Nirvana. We have hit pay dirt. Smell that? That smells like a great afternoon.
Hello? I'm back in the billiard room. Wherever you go in this house, there's just incredible stuff to look at, like this cabinet of Chinese antiquities. And if you look on the top shelf, there's tiny little Chinese foot binding slippers from when they used to bind the feet of women. I'm sorry I chose the creepiest thing to point out to you, but I do find that quite incredible. Oh, there's 56 rooms in this house. I do not have a chance. Oh, it's an old thunder box. Oh, and I can see something that Cam hid earlier.
Ooh, these are good. Here you go. What's that? Bit of Bordeaux? Yes. Nice. Very good French stuff. Delicious. How's this? 1,001 wines to try before you die. I'll give it a crack, but I'll probably die. Whew. Where am I going to hide? We've got some sheds down here. Oh, so they're old storage sheds. OK, so we've got cognac and whiskey, champagne, Bordeaux and liqueur, and some Moselle. What the hell is that? It's like an escape hatch or something, isn't it? Oh, I don't need to hide.
I hope Kate takes her time finding me. This could be the world's greatest hiding place. Next,
Coming through here.
we find out what a multi-million-dollar view looks like.
Oh, how gorgeous.
Playing hide and seek in a Victorian mansion the size of a luxury hotel is a challenge. But I'm finally getting the hang of all these rooms and doors. Just like Downton Abbey, they all connect the servants' quarters to the formal areas of the house.
Hello, Lauren. Quickly, take me to the others. Found, Matt? Found. Hello, Georgia. Well, looky. What a surprise.
I'm hiding.
Really hiding.
I am.
I should have known of all the gin joints in all the world that you would be in this one.
This is pretty special. You got quite the collection, my friend. One question. What is that?
Down the end is the old trapdoor where they used to bring in the barrels of beer. As I mentioned, it was built by the Tooths, then owned by the Resch's family, so they would have had their kegs stored down here.
There's a picture up on the wall there. There's a horse and cart with some barrels.
It's a picture of the old delivery showing the way they brought it in.
Gee, the beer must have flowed like water in this house.
I know.
It would have, wouldn't it?
Did you find anything left over, like some old ancient beers? Or...
I haven't been able to find anything.
If you want to find it, you know how they send a pig to go truffle hunting? If you want to find some stashed bottles, this is your guy.
He's the man?
He's your
I am... Don't call me the truffle pig, call me the booze hound.
Believe it or not, we still haven't explored one of Shane's favourite spaces yet. And this one may just top the lot.
Coming through here.
It's tiny stairs. Is it a turret?
It's a tower room.
Oh, it's the tower room.
So let's keep going, shall we?
This is
Keep going.
Oh, there's more. You know what? This would be the perfect house if the zombie apocalypse actually goes down, don't you reckon?
Yeah, but what if you get trapped up here with a zombie? Hello.
You found me.
There she is.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is just New Year's Eve every year, right? Yeah.
Oh, how gorgeous.
Hello.
Yes.
You came prepared, Penny.
I did come
right,
prepared,
well done.
yes.
I like your style.
Let me help you.
Thanks, Penny. Thanks, Shane.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yes,
kids. And thank you for your hospitality.
You're most welcome.
Oh.
We've loved it. Thank you.
And can we have a toast to Resch?
And the Tooth family.
Oh, and the Tooth?
Yes. And here's to grand old houses. They knew how to build them back then, didn't they?
Oh.
Yes.
And also we've got an announcement that's really incredible.
Ooh.
We're not moving out.
There you go. You got plenty of room.
Next time on Unreal Estate, we're checking out Australia's most remote and extraordinary off-the-grid homes.
This is a great day, not for the oysters.
The $20 million mansion, so secluded the paparazzi couldn't find it.
Lady Gaga stayed here a few years ago.
A tropical island that became an inspiring family home.
You couldn't have wished for a better spot to have a crack at being Robinson Crusoe.
And the Queensland Hideaway making a seriously big claim.
We believe this is Australia's best beach house.
Prove it.